Hello guys, welcome back to my channel again. It's more revelations. If you're new here, welcome to this beautiful channel. Make sure you don't leave without subscribing to this channel. Trust me, you're going to enjoy and learn a lot on this channel. Okay, so without further ado, today's video is a client transformation video, and I have Queen sitting on my chair, and the first thing I did was to take out the excess hair on our brows before going further to cleanse our face. I'm using a spoolie brush to brush the hair up so that I can easily take out the excess hair that is getting along the waist. Like, I'm just trying to follow up her natural brows, even though she has thin hairs, like her brow hairs are not full. So after that, I clean her face because it's very important to start on a very clean canvas. And the cleanser I used is Micellar water from Avour Cosmetics. I'm liking this micellar water because I love the feel it gives after cleansing. Your face feels like you use soap and water to wash your face. You know how your face feels after using soap and water to wash your face. Your face feels kind of dry, like it keeps your face fresh. It takes out all the excess oil on the face and it takes out the dirt. So after that, I went ahead to moisturize her face, and I'm using Blossom moisturizer. So most of these brands I'm using are Nigerian brands. I'm using Blossom moisturizer to moisturize her face. Yes, I'm using a lot of it because I'm going for a matte look. And that's one mistake people make. You think because you're going for a matte look, you need to skip moisturizer. No, you really have to moisturize your face. In fact, you have to use a lot of moisturizers. If not, your makeup will be too dry and your application can end up being patchy. So I also used an hydrating primer from Omaricode. I'm using this hydrating product as a base so that to make my application very easy for me. The same way I took my time to apply the moisturizer on her face is the same way I'm applying the primer. And remember, this is an hydrating primer, so I have to make sure our skin absorbs it very well before going ahead to use the next product. I'm using a skin prep brush for my skin prep application. Now I'm using the Merak skin prep toner on her face, like all over her T-zones. I use a brush to just apply it. Now this will also help me to absorb the excess oil on her face. Remember, I used an hydrating primer, but this will help me to absorb the excess oil on her face. But let it dry down before going further. Before foundation, I hydrate her face to prepare her skin for foundation. So for foundation, I use the NYX foundation, Non-Stop, Won't Stop, and V Beauty foundation. The NYX foundation is a matte foundation. I mixed it with V Beauty foundation and using a concealer brush to apply it on her face before going in with a brush to blend it out. So now guys, I'm using a brush to blend that foundation. Usually I use beauty sponge, but now I'm in love with using foundation brush to blend out my foundations. Like, it just makes it very easy for me. Just make sure the foundation is evenly spread out on the face. For foundation application, it's best you apply your foundation on one side of the face and blend it properly before going on to the other side of the face. If you're being scattered with your application, your foundation can also be scattered. Remember, for you to achieve a flawless look, it's from your base. It starts up with your foundation also. Your foundation application is very, very important. Now to lock the foundation, I'm using Omaricode Skin Mist Spray to lock in the foundation. And yes, I know you might be like, we're going for a matte look, so why are we using a skin mist spray? So guys, here is it. Queen has a normal skin type. So me going for a matte look does not mean I have to go all dry. Do you get? So I have to be conscious of the product I use also, so that my application can be flawless. I don't want the makeup to crack at any point in time because the foundation I use is a matte foundation. So after application, her face was looking very matte and dried. So that was why I go in with a skin mist spray instead of a matte spray. I'm still trying to balance it at least so that I can get a flawless look and our makeup does not end up cracking or breaking later on. So I'm using Nuban concealer for the place I want to highlight in 046. Then I just used 043 only on the inner corner of her eyes because I want only the under eye to be a little bit brighter. And then I went in with my beauty sponge to blend it out. If you're not new to my channel, you know that I use Nuban concealer a lot. Like this one concealer I use on all my clients. I love their concealer so much. It's lightweight to medium coverage. It's very easy to blend and it doesn't crack. It's a Nigerian brand and I love how Nigerian brands has improved so much in the makeup industry. Guys, when blending out the concealer, always remember to blend the corners of the face, especially the corners of the nose. Remember to blend it well. If you don't blend it, that side can look patchy. Make sure the face is looking like this before you go ahead to set. You can see how our face is looking all flawless. Like you can't see any demarcation between the concealer and the blush. Like everything just blends together. So to set, I'm using Merak Cosmetics setting powder in cinnamon and I mixed it with a compact powder from V Beauty Cosmetics from their palette. So before setting, I went in with my beauty sponge again to blend out the under eye, making sure there's no creasing before setting. I used the triangular puff to set it. So I'm just pressing that gently on the under eye to make it look really flawless. And remember, I'm also setting the side of our nose. Then I also blend out the edges so that there won't be any demarcation on the sides. So I repeat the same thing on the other side and then set the rest of the highlighted areas with the same setting powder from Micellar Cosmetics. So now to set the rest of the face, I'm using V Beauty powder to set the rest of her face. So I'm using a shade close to her skin tone so I don't alternate my base, but I'm avoiding the highlighted areas, especially the under eye. So I went in with a blush to set the cream blush and I'm concentrating that on the highest point of her cheeks area. The blush will also help erase any demarcation that must have been there while I was highlighting her face. So going further, I contoured her nose with a powder shade that's like 2 shades darker than her. I don't like my contour shade too dark, so it's really soft, but at least it's well contoured nicely. So just contouring the sides of her nose to make her nose pointed. So before going into bake, for baking I used RCMA setting powder. It's white, but it's a no color setting powder. It doesn't leave white cast on the face. You can see that as I'm setting or as I'm adding the product on her face, I'm also trying to blend out the edges so I don't have any demarcations on the face. So now for our brows, I'm using a hair wax to brush up our hair up so that it can stay in place. You can also use eyebrow tamers, but I prefer to use hair wax. That's the regular edge control that we know because it's bigger in size and it has more quantity in it. And they still do the same work. And I'm setting it so that it can help me absorb the excess oil on it so that my pencil can glide in easily. The pencil I'm using is from Davies in 03. I use that to outline our brows. Who else hold their breath when they are doing the brows? Like the brows is just one part that can I mean it's one part that can put you on your toes. Guys, as I'm outlining, you can see that I'm checking to make sure I'm correct because no matter how good you are, just know that Brows are sisters, not twins. At times, they might end up not looking exactly the same, but you just try to make sure they look closely alike, like it's not obviously different. If you notice, she was chewing gum, so I had to tell her to hold a while I draw her brows so that I can have a steady hand. So I use the same pencil to fill in the brows, making edge strokes to give it this natural look. And then I used my brow gel from Again Esther in Ebony. I just use that to outline so that the outline can just pop and make the brows stand out. That's all. Then I went ahead to conceal brows with the same concealer I used to highlight her face, Nuban concealer. I use that to define her brows. So as I was saying earlier, while doing the brows, you have to focus well, especially while highlighting, because that's the part you get to clean up any mistake you must have made when you were drawing the brows. But the good thing is just for you to just make sure you draw your brows well so it won't stress you when you are highlighting or concealing the brows. And then I used a darker shade of concealer for the tail of the brows. In fact, I just go ahead to use the same foundation I used for her. So the leftover I have on my pan, I just picked that to clean the tail of the brows so that it can easily blend well with her skin tone. After that, I used a fluffy blending brush to blend out the concealer. But please notice that while I was highlighting the brows, I did not start from the beginning of the brows because I want to give it this more natural look. So moving on to her eyes, I used an eyeshadow base on her lid, and I also make sure I blend it out very well so that my eyeshadow application will go smoothly and it will not crease. I used the white base from Ferrari Concealer as my eyeshadow base. So for transition color, I just picked a brown shade from my powder palette as a transition on a crease. You can also pick a brown shade from your eyeshadow palette for your transition color, but I like to use my powder palette because I can easily get browns that matches with the person's skin tone on the powder palette. The trick to applying easy eyeshadow application is to go in with the transition first. You see how the eyes is already looking now with the transition, like I can easily go in with any color I want on a lid for the eyeshadow application. So I had to go behind her to adjust the cape very well on her so that the product does not drop on her clothes. I don't want her clothes to stain. For eyeshadow, I'm using V Beauty eyeshadow palette for our eyeshadow. So I went in with a blue shade all over her lid. I just make sure I cover the whole lid with the blue eyeshadow. And I use a purple shade on the outer corner of her eyes. So because I want her eyes to spark a little bit, so I added little pigment on the eyes. But before adding the pigment, I went in with my pigment glue so that it will help my pigment to stay well on the eyes. And I used a pigment from Luzta Cosmetics. Whoosh, guys, can you see that? It's just take the highs from 10 to 100. I love these highs already. I just placed that only in the middle of the eyes, making it look like, giving it like this yellow look, you know. So I just went in to use a black eyeshadow to darken the outer corner. Then I align the lid with a black gel. So while lining it, I make sure the liner and the black eyeshadow connect each other. Guys, can you see how it looks? There are some things that you just can't explain. This eyes is the most catchy part for me from this look. So I just went ahead to just dust off the excess powder I left on her face to help me catch the eyeshadow fallout. That's the powder on her face. But guys, you can see that her face is not looking white. RCMA setting powder does not give white cast. Just you just have to know your way around it anyways. So after dusting it off, it's time to set the whole face. Now setting it will help kill this powderiness, so your face will not be looking like powder, powder, powder. So just keep it calm, and then I fixed her lashes. So now this part, guys, I'm using a cheek glaze on the highest point of our face. Now you can totally skip this if you're going for a matte look. Like if you really want your face matte matte, you can skip the cheek glaze because the cheek glaze gives glow to the face. So I just wanted her to glow. So like I said, you can totally skip this if you're going for a matte look. So that part can be skipped. You can just go in with your highlighter instead, and I'm placing my highlighter on the glaze. So this will just help the highlighter to just pop even more. I think that's just what it does. It makes the face glow. But like I said, you can skip it totally if you're going for a matte look. Then the lips, align the lips with I mixed the lipstick with my brow gel from Ega and Esther in Ebony. And the thing about lining of the lips looks very easy, but guys, try. It can be really frustrating because you really have to focus and get the person's lip shape. As long as you're trying to follow the line, everybody has different lip shapes. It look easy, but to be honest, it's not easy. Hmm. Okay. So I fill in the lips with a nude lip stain from Avour Cosmetics. I just make sure I blend the nude into the brown very well. And what's a baby girl without gloss? Guys, can you see how Queen is looking? Uh-huh. I make sure our face is really blended well before going ahead to use a finishing spray for our face. Guys, can you see? Look at the eyes. For me, the eyes is one catching part. Like, it's the part that got me the most on this look. And as much as I'm in love with everything, the brows, the lips, the skin, our skin is skinning, the highlights. And by the way, Queen is a hairstylist. She laid her hair and styled it herself. I'll be dropping our Instagram handle in the description bar so you can follow her on Instagram, and also like this video to help push the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this look, and also subscribe to my beautiful channel, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.